Hey friends, I'm Abigail.
And I'm Emily.
And you're listening to the Strategy Hour podcast brought to you by Boss Project.
This is the podcast dedicated to giving you a no-fluff, total transparency look behind the curtain of how online businesses work.
We're talking funnels and social media strategies, profit reports and email marketing, mindsets and productivity lessons, and everything else that creative business owners like yourself need to start and grow their businesses.
We're taking everything we've learned from building 9 different businesses with everything from a failed cupcake shop to a website design company to a health and wellness brand and even a handmade physical product shop. Yep, just like you, we're multi-passionate.
And just like you, we love getting paid, doing what we love. And we want the same thing for you. So it doesn't matter if you're listening in during your lunch break at your 9 to 5, you hope to quit one day.
Or if you snuck in your earbuds while your kid is watching their favorite TV show, or even if you've already gone out on your own, but you're wanting a few tips and tricks along the way, we're here for you.
So buckle up because we're about to spill the beans. You know that with a few intentional strategies and hella focus, you can build the life and business you're dreaming of. We're here to help you with the strategies that work for you, no matter your goals.
So put your socks on, pour a fresh cup of coffee, and let's get into some strategy.
Hey, real quick, before we get started on today's episode, we wanted to let you in on a little secret. The kind of secret that will show you the ins and outs of how to become a full-time creative. We're talking earning a full-time income, not putting in full-time hours.
Just head to bossproject.com/dreamjob to sign up for our next free online workshop. Yep, that's an entire hour of training and strategy built for you and your business. Get signed up for free at bossproject.com/dreamjob.
Today on the podcast, we have Danielle. She is from betterfemalefriendships.com and the host of the Friend Forward podcast. She is on a mission to help women create and maintain better friendships as an adult in the online world, as a business owner, all of the things. She has recently been featured on NBC News and been hired to coach some of the most impressive people. I've been so blown away by everything she had to say today, and I'm excited for you to dive in.
Y'all, this is about friendships, how you have them, how you keep them, how you maintain them, how you be a better friend, how you outgrow old friendships. Every question that you have felt uncomfortable asking about how to make friends in the online space, in the real life space, as a business owner, are getting answered on this podcast episode today. Abby and I feel like open up a lot in our needs of friendship and our own loneliness when it comes to feeling like we know a lot of people, but not having deep connections. Danielle really breaks down what does it mean to be a level 9 friend versus a level 4 friend, the 3 factors that you need in every friendship for it to thrive, how you can re-engage with people you already know to try to build connections from literally your current network, and everything in between. This one, truly, you're going to listen to it like 4 times because you're going to get so many good action steps to take. And I'm very excited for you. I'm very excited for us. And I hope that so many friendships are made because of this episode.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this chat.
I am so freaking pumped to have you here. I think this is a conversation that literally every single one of our listeners is going to want to take something away from. They've been thinking that they need, but they don't know how to ask these type of questions to get the results that they're actually looking for. And I think what's always serendipitous about our show is that these specific conversations are happening between me and Abby with our different coaching programs or our own students. And they're happening in our real lives. And then we meet someone like you who can actually provide real, tangible action steps for us to be like, okay, no, go listen to Danielle and everything that she says in this area, because this is something that I feel like we all struggle with. And the big hot topic of the day is how the French toast do you make friends as an adult? And how do you make friends in the online world? And what are friends and what does that mean? So we're going to be talking, I feel like, about all of those different aspects. But I would love just a quick rundown into how in the world did this get to be your niche and your zone of genius?
Yeah, it's so wild because I always make the joke that, becoming a friendship coach is certainly not something that was on my vision board when I was 8, it just happened. So I was actually a high school English teacher for 6 years. And so I found myself coaching, students through between classes, after class. And I made the foolish mistake of thinking that I was leaving that drama behind when I got into public relations. Cause I'm like, finally, I'm dealing with adult women who are ambitious. And then it's like, oh, snap, like they have issues too. And so I kind of had the takeaway of at every stage of womanhood, we're trying to navigate friendships, how to make them, how to keep them going, how to pivot when they don't work out because you become a business owner. So that's when I kind of became obsessed and I was like, this is fascinating. And so for the past 2-3 years now, this is what I've been doing. I fell into it and it's been a really awesome and continually surprising journey so far.
I'm sure. I can only imagine, like, there's many things I think you can imagine yourself being at any stage of life. But
this is the opposite of whatever I would do.
Not necessarily one of those things that you're like, oh yeah, for sure that thing. Well, I think the topic on everybody's mind is I would love that. Like I would love more friends. I'm craving friendships. And some people would love to be like okay friends with a lot of people. Some people crave like deeper friendships with a fewer people. But either way, I do think people crave connection, and especially after being isolated for so long with COVID and the world just changing around us, and we're coming out and like the world's a different place, but also we're different people with maybe we got more clear on our priorities or how we want to spend our time. And so maybe the people we started with before 2020 are not necessarily the people we need moving forward. But even still, like, I think some of us hold on to things that aren't necessarily real friendships. They're just kind of shitty container for friendships. And I don't know, where do we even start? Like, I think that's the thing. People are just overwhelmed. Like, I don't know where to meet people. I don't know where to look. And do I really have to do that? Like Bumble app for friends? Like, ugh.
I legitimately thought about that.
I did too. I've thought about it multiple times and I'm feeling meh.
So you're not alone there. Women, especially being, contained in the house, you do start to think, okay, how can I satisfy this need, even though I have these restrictions about going outside? And, and we're in an increasingly technological world. So for a lot of people, the next natural step is, okay, well, how do I do this online? I guess, let me get familiar. And so, yes, a lot of women turn to apps like Bumble BFF. I know they have tons of success stories. I will say, however, a lot of coaching sessions, that I have, women will list that as something they've tried and they'll say, it was great for meeting people, but then I never knew what to do next. It's always the art of momentum or creating depth, which unfortunately those apps don't help you do. But I think there are tremendous resources. If you're trying to just meet a brand new person, then there's no shortage of women. So, it could be helpful in that way. But, to have adult women, entrepreneurial women say, how do I make friends is so, I wonder if we're so self-sufficient and driven and together that we don't want to admit a vulnerability like that. And it also is seemingly unnecessary to run a successful business. So we don't tend to it because we're like, I just need to focus on like my offers and my clients,
You're calling me out in such deep.
I'm just I'm reading your journal. I'm reading your diary right now. Okay, pretty much. But you're not alone. And especially, one of the most popular question I get, hands down, is how do I make friends? And it often comes with some kind of qualifier. So it's how do I make friends as a new college graduate, as a mom, as a business owner? And I always say about 80% of the content is the same across the board. It's universal. But yeah, there is some stuff that's probably specific to where you are. And I know for coaches, for business owners, we do live kind of in a unique space and it makes making friends kind of difficult. You're like, yes, get to it. Okay, here we go. Boom. Number one tip is I want you to start with who you already know, because a lot of times we're using the phrase make new friends and meet new people synonymously. The two are not the same. And so there's no shortage of meeting new people. But a lot of us, making friends refers to the art of cultivating something meaningful with another person. And who said you have to start from scratch? A lot of us have people in our network that we've dismissed as potential friends for whatever reason. She's too young. She is a 9 to 5. She probably can't relate. We have a mutual friend, but she seems closer to her than me, so I'm not going to go for it. And we have tons of people we have dismissed as potential friends. Is it possible you can tap back into that well and entertain the idea of this person being an actual friend? You already have buffers. You already have things in common, but can you expand that? So the people you do kind of see often, can you expand the conversation by 2 more minutes than you normally would? Can you talk to them now like they're a potential friend instead of just a girl you know? So when you engage differently, I think we're often surprised by the outcome, but it's because we haven't even trained our mind that, wait a second, I could potentially be friends with this girl. So, start with who you know. The second thing for business owners, we know how to network when it comes to, professional stuff, but I always say you should be leveraging connections with your super connector friends. So these are people who thrive on bringing different groups together. I would like to consider myself one. I'm the one who's like, oh my God, Tiffany, you should meet my friend Maria. You guys would, oh my gosh, we do it in business. Why not leverage those people for our social lives? So that extroverted friend who loves getting people together, why not text her and say, hey, I'm trying to get more plugged in. I thought of you because you're always doing something cool. You've always got a gaggle of women around you. And I'm just curious, do you know of anything around town that's like worth me checking out? Like what's worth checking out around here? She's probably either going to give you recommendations, which will be helpful, or go the next step of saying, oh my gosh, actually, yeah, some of us are going out Tuesday. You should come. But you cannot have a desire satisfied until you make it known. And so many of us are self-conscious about saying, man, I want friends. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I could get together all the women who tell me that in secret in a session and be like, yes, all of you are saying it, and put them in a room. And so you cannot get that need met until you bring in the help of your friends and kind of let them know that that's something that you're looking for. And those are 2 ways to kind of get started with cultivating those relationships.
Well, I have so many follow-up questions.
I have a question. Okay. So let's go to part 1 where we're re-engaging with past connections. Literally, you just slide into their DMs, you like reach out to them in a way and you say, hey girl, what's up? Like, what do you say? Because I can think of some people.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're lingering.
Okay. Good. So the fact that you have people in your mind, step 1. Step 2 is like, okay, how do I say this? And in what forum? Whatever forum it feels natural to you all. So if email is normal for you two, if you were to have a conversation, you're in that realm, then stick there. If you have texted a couple times and that's now normal for you all, if that's appropriate, then you go there. In terms of what you start saying, I always like the thing of, hey, I saw XYZ. And I thought of you, or I thought of that party we went to, or I thought of that festival. I thought of that show. It made me think of you. I thought I'd reach out, see how you're doing. That's it. But that way it doesn't feel so random. And also a lot of times I know we get self-conscious about like, oh my gosh, am I going to look desperate? Am I going to look? The average person is flattered by the fact that you thought of them. No one's really thinking like, oh my gosh, what a weirdo. But if you tell me like, oh my gosh, I saw this thing at Target. It made me think about that festival 2 years ago. I just wanted to like send it your way. Whether I even accompany that with like a picture of me in the aisle of the thing that I'm talking about. But people feel flattered to be thought of, and it gets the conversation going. Hopefully she's saying something back like, yes, that was such a good time. Oh yeah, well, do you want to grab coffee sometime? Or I just wanted to let you know, or whatever it is. But it's about building kind of that momentum. If you're expecting in the first interaction after 3 years, you're going to coffee, it can unfortunately sometimes make people suspicious or they're wondering about ulterior motives. So I'm just letting you know, like, I thought of you, period. I'm not trying to like sell you on my new program.
Sell you something. Right.
Yeah.
Well, so how do we make this go deeper? Because I think perhaps I'm not afraid to have those like initial conversations, but I feel like it goes 1 or 2 ways. Like either one, I'm the only one who really cares about it actually turning into more. And they're like, I feel like I keep suggesting we go
Keep
out.
saying something.
Or reaching out and they're not texting back, or like, how do you find someone that's like willing to give what you're willing to give?
Okay, so that's a great question because I think the way you framed it is very interesting. So when we say like, how do I find people who, or the kind of girl who, we've determined that it's a type of person who will offer this, as opposed to something we just have to look for and a behavior that anybody can give us back, as opposed to like, oh, she let me down. She might not be the right kind of person, or she can't give what I'm looking for. She's not one of those. Instead of anybody can offer it. And there are some things that we can do to kind of, nurture that a little bit. it. So in terms of keeping momentum, the first thing I'm going to say, especially since we're talking to business owners, is try really hard to turn that off. A lot of us come into it in coach mode. And before we know it, we've developed a dynamic where I'm the coach and you're a potential client, or you know what I mean? Turn it off. And I recently coached a woman who is beautiful, smart, sharp, large social following, makes tons of money in her business. And she came to me because she was like, yeah, all that stuff's good, but I feel like I can't turn it off. And because of that, I feel like I don't have any friends. And so it got kind of personal, which, normally the sessions do, but we had to explore, well, what else do you feel like you have to offer? And a lot of
nothing.
When it's your main thing, it's so
Enneagram 3, INFJ, it's all work.
Like, it's what I think about, it's what I breathe, it's like what I'm considering, and I'm
not mad about it.
No, and I like having business conversations with people, but then sometimes you end up feeling like, we went to lunch and all we did was talk about work, and not only my work, but their work. And then you're suggesting things for them to do on ways they can grow.
I feel like I should have charged you for that session.
And so and maybe this is it. Maybe it's that maybe the initial connection was work, but you're realizing you don't have things in common outside of that. And so then it's just so how do you find the people that you actually have stuff in common with outside of the work bubble? Because I think maybe that's the actual issue, is I don't know. Maybe I'm interpreting wrong.
So to get clear on what those things are, the same way we feel like, oh, you meet a woman who's a fellow coach and you're like, oh my gosh, boom. I already know what things to start talking to you about because that's my world. What are the other things that light you up, that you love to do? I mean, I'm talking even as simple as a show that you love, because it has the same effect. That show you love, you mention it to a stranger and they're like, oh my God, I love that show too. And automatically you're like, say no more. I know what kind of person you are. You're an amazing person if you like that show. It's the same thing. But in terms of how do I find these people who are non-business obsessed? Well, I don't know. What are those other things that you love and where do those people live? So it starts by working backwards. But until I identify, actually, I really love to cook and I love cooking classes, or actually, I really love art, or I'm obsessed with my dog. What are the other things? And then where do those people live? And that's the mix I need to be in. And then when I get there, sure, I'm proud to be a business owner, but do I find that I'm always leading with that, or that I'm giving unsolicited advice when they bring something up because that's what excites me? And so some of us are unintentionally creating certain divides already because that's what we feel comfortable leading with.
I think that's my biggest hang up is I know I give unsolicited advice often. And so I just don't talk a lot in group settings. But so then it inhibits actual connection being had, because I will just try to be a fly on the wall and sit there because I don't want to fucking coach your whole life and what I think you should be doing because that's what I want to be saying. So then I just end up being the quiet person who doesn't connect with anyone.
Well, and I think mine's a little bit different in that that may be happening in person where I'm giving unsolicited advice, but online, I do feel like I have some people that are good friends, but because we're literally not in the same state or in the same region, I feel like we diminish what it could be. Because when am I realistically actually going to fly across the country? So it could be deeper, but it's I'm avoiding it being deeper because what I really want is someone to hang out with me on a Friday night in person in my house.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let me nerd out for a second and drop some research on you that might offer some perspective. Okay. So a couple of things that are circulating my brain. The first thing is research shows that you are twice as likely to become friends with people who are simply near you. That's why it felt seemingly so easy to make friends in school. You are with them in a classroom for 8 hours a day. So yes, you were forced to get to know each other. A new study just came out that shows, that teachers should use assigned seats because it turns out that it makes those kids friends. It's the repetition and it's the proximity. And so I say that to say, I know some of us do that thing where we're like, well, I have friends. I mean, they all live in different places, but I have friends, so I'm good. That is great. But I also encourage you to keep your eyes open and keep your head on a swivel to the people who are physically close to you, whether that's a co-work space and you see them all the time. I mean, constant exposure, repeated exposure is a key ingredient of building a friendship. So that's why I always encourage people, what kind of routines do you have in your day? What kind of spaces are you going to all the time? Research, like based in research, statistically, you're more likely to make friends in those spaces.
She just whispers, no.
Get out the house.
I'm like literally going to the grocery store and that's it. And so, okay, this is just laying my life on the line. Okay, so Kansas City is a weird city and that like all the fun shit to do is not on my side of town. And so I meet a lot of people that live 20, 30 minutes away, which seems like it shouldn't be a barrier. It's only 20, 30 minutes. But I swear
30 minutes is a long way. You're like 35 minutes from me, and it's hard for me to get to you.
It's like there was both this like mental shift of like, well, we're in the same city, like that should be good enough. But I'm like literally craving like a 3-minute walk. Like I'm craving like a 5 minutes down the road, and like that limits the circle. Like it's so
just go start knocking on people's doors in your neighborhood.
I'm like, they're all 80.
So, so let's keep everything in context. So like, yes, statistically, I'm more likely to make friends with the people I see all the time. So that's one thing to keep in mind of, okay, let me be intentional about talking to people I see all the time and entertaining the idea of befriending them because I see them all the time. So that's one. Now, sure, in a space where everything's virtual and people are all scattered, you're going to have friends who don't live close. And that is what it is. And that's okay. The thing there is to get intentional about how we make time. One thing that business owners, especially, we say is like, I just don't have the time to like be hanging out, to meet friends. I don't have time. And I challenge you to rethink what hanging out looks like, because normally we'll say something like, I don't have time for like a 2-hour brunch on Saturday or to go out late on Thursday night. But you're revealing to me that you associate these long, big escapades with hanging out. So it's not about finding additional hours. It's about layering the time that you have. So as an example, if I know that like clockwork, every Sunday evening is my laundry time, like I just sit down, I do laundry, I watch a show, I need to layer that time with something else I could be doing to connect with somebody. So I might hit up a friend on Friday and say, hey, I miss hearing your voice. Haven't talked to you. How did that one thing turn out? Do you want to chat on the phone Sunday around 7 for 30 minutes or so? What I'm noticing is a lot of times when that ball drops, like when you have the friendship fade and you're like, God, I thought we were hitting it off, but then nothing happened. I'm noticing is because even how we invite is not sufficient enough. We're like, we should get together. Yeah. It has to have 3 parts. It has to have the date. It has to have the duration, especially for my introverted friends. They need to know how long to charge their social battery, and they need to know that there's an end time. And then it needs to have an occasion, like, why are we getting together? What's the objective? And so a lot of us do that open-ended, like, yeah, we should totally hang out. Like, yeah, that sounds fun. Well, now somebody's got to be required to do the mental labor of figuring that all out, and then it just fades. And so layer the time you do have. If you're always walking your dog, if you're always going to the gym at a certain time, if you have errands to run, can you invite somebody on the trip with you? And if you can't, that goes into something else. Why do you only have friends that you feel like you have to perform for and y'all aren't comfortable enough to just take a walk and that is sufficient? So it kind of layers a bunch of things, but how can you layer time you already have with people who are important to connect with? New research is finding that a 10-minute phone call with someone boosts your mood. So it doesn't have to be this big old thing. If it's connection we're craving, we have to get creative and intentional about how we do that. And then, of course, sure, who we're doing that with.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a system to manage and onboard clients, send easy and automated communications, send out proposal contracts, and even get paid?
Well, let us introduce you to Dubsado. This software is so flexible and can be customized for so many different businesses. So whether you're a coach, designer, photographer, lawyer, virtual assistant, or anything in between.
Now, we want to highlight one super cool new feature that's gonna blow your mind. Yeah, Dubsado now has Scheduler with video capabilities. This makes it so easy for a client to pick a day and time when you're available, and they'll already have the links for the video call without you having to create anything new.
You can also charge for appointments and have them fill out questionnaires prior to the call, and it even syncs with Google, iCloud, Outlook, or Office 365 Calendar to prevent overbooking.
Dubsado does so many cool things though. We're talking scheduling and project management, accounting and reporting, think profit and loss statements, my personal favorite, and so many other helpful integrations.
I think like 2,000 integrations with different apps. That's incredible. And as a special listener of the show, we'd love for you to unlock their free trial for life by heading to bossproject.com/Dubsado or save 50% off your first month or year by entering code BOSSPROJECT at checkout.
That's bossproject.com/Dubsado, DUBSADO, to snag the free trial for life or 50% off your first month or year with Dubsado by entering code BOSSPROJECT at checkout.
Have you been struggling to go full-time in your creative business? We know that it can get really overwhelming when you're trying to get all the parts and pieces it takes to make your passion your full-time job.
So we want to help you with that. We created a free training called Day Job to Dream Job, How to Become a Full-Time Creative. And you can watch it right now by heading to bossproject.com/watch.
Inside this training, we go over the 3 core areas to focus on in order to see growth fast. We even give you simple screenshot-worthy strategies on how to switch up tasks you're currently doing that aren't as effective as you might think.
So go sign up right now to watch. It's on demand, so you can get started right after you finish listening to this episode, or pick another day and time that works better for your schedule. Just head to bossproject.com/watch to sign up for free. Are you craving more actionable tips for your service-based business? Would you like someone to break down the exact steps you need to implement marketing strategies that actually convert?
Then be sure to check out our sister podcast, The Nugget, only available for Creative Shop Co-op members. This show drops monthly and is a perfect addition to your listening here on the Strategy Hour.
The Nugget is an audio companion piece to the marketing templates that are released inside the shop. The templates are here to give you the what, and the Nugget is here to give you the how.
So be sure to check out Boss Project's newest podcast, The Nugget, airing privately on Hello Audio by heading to creativeshopcoop.com. That's creativeshopcoop, COOP.com. The Marco Polo app has changed my life in the past couple years. I had it and was only Marcoing like one friend on it pre-pandemic, and then pandemic happened and I was like, everyone join it. I need to see your faces all of the time. And that's been super helpful for friends who I know I want to have a deeper connection with, but they don't live here. And just like reality of me seeing you is not going to happen. But I truly value who you are as a person. I want to be in your life. And so let's have some face-to-face time together.
While I struggle here, I did do something with my college friends that has made a massive difference. And you always have to be paying attention to like what's going to work for your little circle or whatever. And so we have a Facebook Messenger thread that's, I think is there 5 of us? Anyway, doesn't really matter how many. And we just chat. And I just presented the idea to them a month or 2 ago where I was like, what if you guys have no qualifications for like what you have to say? Like it doesn't have to be like the baby announcement thread. Like I want to just hear from you. Like literally anything, good, bad, ugly, a random thing of the day. Send me a picture, send me a message. And it's changed our friendship on a really deep level. And then we added like what a concept. We added a reoccurring calendar event the first Thursday of every month at 8:00, when we're all just home anyway, probably binge watching TV, we get on Zoom and we chat. And we usually end up chatting for like 4 or 5 hours because we were so close. We did literally everything together in college. And now we live very different, very separate lives. And we're still each other's best friends, but like we're living very different lives. And so it's been really great to have that connection. And every time it happens, because I am an introvert, I'm like, it's the first Thursday. I'm like almost dreading the thing. And then I force myself to go anyway. And every time I'm like, oh, I really needed that. And I'm so glad I went, and I'm glad I made myself do the thing. But I say I'm not good at it, and then I give you all these tips. So
that was a stellar example. Look at you. You know what? Research tells us that our social network grows and grows and grows until about the age of 25, at which point it declines rapidly. But it kind of makes sense because if you think about what's happening at that time, people are getting laser focused on their career goals. They are moving across the country for their jobs. They are having kids. They're getting married. Their values are kind of changing after college. And those things do kind of bring us in separate directions. And so, I think a lot of us kind of have that, like we sit in that nostalgia of like, oh, it was so easy in college. Well, yes, because you were in a dorm, saturated with your peers, you were in class all the time.
Yeah, go join a commune if you want it to be easy.
Yeah, so yes, it was. You were in the same life stage at the same time. Everything was together, And so, I think it's very unsexy, but the reality is exactly what you just said of putting it on the calendar, especially as business owners. I live and die by my calendar. So why am I not also putting, at 4:00, I'm going to so-and-so's house and we're doing this thing for an hour. And I honor that the way I would anything else. No, that's not sexy. No, it's not that fantasy of like, oh, I just want it to be like organic though. I know it's not that. However, if I'm claiming I want to feel connected, man, I want to feel in touch, what am I doing to make sure that happens? Because too many of us are seeing friendship as a nice to have when it's a need to have. We push it to the margins of our lives. We tend to prioritize whatever's making us money and family. And if I have time left over, I'll get to that. And then simultaneously say, man, I feel so lonely. And so we've got to start talking about friendship more from like a wellness perspective. And I really need this in order to kind of give it the time that it requires.
Well, I want to transition part of this conversation to the shedding some friendships. And as you yourself change as a person, just in general, but specifically because we are talking to business owners, we've had this conversation pop up literally today in a coaching program that we're in of business owners who are becoming more and more successful. And they start talking about their achievements in business, whether it be financial milestones that they're hitting or really cool, like I was featured here, I was published here, I did this thing over here. And then they're finding some of their older friendships don't like that. And they're starting to feel weird. And so I think people are having to kind of process what that means. And they're either wanting to shed their relationship and they don't know how, or they're wanting to change part of even themselves to keep that relationship and they don't know how. What are your tips kind of around that?
Whenever we enter a different life stage, somebody becomes an entrepreneur and now it's like, oh, I don't know how to relate to her because I'm still in a 9-to-5 or whatever it is. Your needs shift. Now you need somebody who can appreciate you got that press feature and you feel like your other friends can't really get it. Whatever it is that creates some kind of shift in your friendship, it makes sense that naturally it would kind of make you lift your eyebrows up in suspicion of like, oh my gosh, what's happening? What do I do? I'm gonna keep it real for a second. I'm gonna run through a couple things, and I need you to be, for those listening, self-aware of which one applies. Because what happens a lot, especially in female friendships, that's why I specialize in this, is we end a lot of friendships prematurely because we won't say the thing or because we created a self-generated narrative. Hands down.
So I've never done either of those
things. So we'll say like, oh, she didn't support me. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean? Did you tell her? Did you tell her you needed this? Well, no, but okay. So we do a lot of that. Now, a couple things. One, if you find that your friends can no longer relate or they can't appreciate that win as much as you, first determine, is that necessarily a bad thing? Because if they're not entrepreneurs, then of course they probably don't understand the importance of the fact you were featured on this podcast or you sold out this program. But the key here is, are they still willing to celebrate or say, oh my gosh, that's awesome? But is it important to you now that you have friends who get the impact of those specific wins? I can't tell you what's right or wrong, but get clear on, is it important to you that you have people who are your friends who understand the impact of the things that, you celebrate the same way you do? I can't make that determination. I think what we need to pay more attention to is for those who are not interested in that part of our lives. They don't inquire. They say things that feel like they're, maybe shading a little bit what we do. Things like that feel like, okay, there's something there that felt intentional or negative. I think that's different than I feel like she can't relate to my life anymore, my new life anymore. So what can I do to cut her out of it? Because, you have to determine how important is that friendship to you. And no, maybe you guys don't share the same things in common that you did 3 years ago, but is she really attentive? Does she show up to things when you ask? Is she a good time? Is she a great listener? Because in my opinion, that's somebody to keep around. And maybe I have to say to myself, well, gosh, okay, I can't really talk business stuff with her, but is that bad? So it really does start with determining what are your absolute needs in a friend, and then what are your thresholds, non-negotiables, where you're like, I don't even want this relationship in my life anymore. Sometimes those things are different. So if for whatever reason you have determined, oh yeah, like this friendship's expired, I think I need to like end it. There's a couple ways that you can do that. One, I always advise against ghosting. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. To have the dignity to let a person know why I'm going to stop responding to you right now, because it just feels a little harsh. So, letting them know somehow. The one thing I advise against, if you are going to have like a full conversation, let's say she's done something egregious and you're like, I need to let her know, like, I can't do this anymore. Is to make sure you focus on your needs and not her behavior. Because we'll be quick to say, you know what? I feel like you don't XYZ, XYZ. I feel like you are always, it doesn't matter, because all she's going to do is defend and be like, are you serious? And tell you all the ways in which you've observed incorrectly. So it's not even about her. It's about you. So you might say something to the effect of, you know what? I've actually been prioritizing XYZ lately. And I'm sorry. I feel like I cannot maintain this friendship and keep prioritizing that. And so I don't know that I can keep hanging out in the same way that you're looking for, but I'm letting her know, because of what I need, I can't do this anymore. And it's less about you're too this or you're not this enough, which sends women off into the world with a complex, because now they've been told by a friend that they're too much. So I'm not going to detract from you or your character. It just doesn't align with what I need in my life anymore. If it's something where you are, having a friend and you feel like you need to slowly let her go, if you don't want it to be a total cutoff, then you have two other options. One is you can decrease your frequency, because some of us would be okay. It's just like, I just have to see her once a quarter. I cannot do her every day, and your friendship will be fine. And that's okay. And then the second alternative you have, instead of cutting somebody off, is to recategorize them. So a lot of us, and this sounds harsh, but a lot of us are expecting this friend to be a level 9 friend. And so we are therefore disappointed when she doesn't answer when we call, when she doesn't understand all our business ventures, when she doesn't do all the things. We're like, oh God, I'm so dissatisfied. When she doesn't have the capacity to spend the same amount of time together, but you have expectations of a level 9 friend. I wonder if in your mind, you kind of put her back on the shelf of a level 4 friend. This does not mean she's a level 4 person, but I prioritize her as a level 4 friend, meaning I think I'm going to make myself just be satisfied with, happy hours or having a good lunch with her. And I'm going to be okay with that. I'm no longer going to hold her to the expectation of meeting all these other standards. I wonder if I can be satisfied with our friendship if I just saw her as like my hangout buddy and stopped expecting her to be my vulnerability my partner or my business brainstorm buddy. Releasing her from that expectation and releasing yourself from the disappointment that comes with her not being able to measure up. So is there a way that you can either decrease frequency or recategorize your expectations to experience a little more satisfaction in that friendship and see kind of what happens from there?
This has been so helpful. And I think one last question before we get into talk strategy to me. First of all, the levels, I don't know why that's such a mind-boggling thing. Like, it makes total sense, but I'm wondering if it's part of my unsatisfaction is I've held all these people to a much higher standard than what they probably are, and they would be totally fine being that level 4, like you're saying, but maybe I'm really just craving like one level 9 friend, And so if you're just not sure, like, who that person is or who they could be, or like, even if you did come up with those couple people in mind of like, who could I kick around and like maybe bring that relationship back up, how do you assess? Because I think when you constantly feel like you're the one like initiating, I think I get, maybe part of me is like, well, you got to communicate what you want and what you need, just the way you would with your spouse and blah, blah, blah. And I'm hearing myself all in my head arguing anyway. But like, how do you cultivate that deeper relationship intentionally and make sure that's what they want too?
Right. And with someone in person. Because I feel like I have a couple of really high level friendships, but they don't live here.
There's something called the frientimacy triangle. The words friendship and intimacy merge together. And it's by a friendship expert. Her name is Shasta Nelson. And she argues that if you want depth in a friendship, you need three things. The first is positivity. This appears at the base of the triangle because if it's not a pleasurable experience to be together, I'm not even going to elect to try to build something more because it's not fun. This is for those of us, a self call out, who get into the habit of chronic complaining, venting. We constantly need reassurance when we're with our friends and they have to build us back up. And some of us, we do it. We don't even realize that's what we're doing. Well, that makes for a crappy experience for the other friend. So positivity, you can't have depth without it. The second is consistency. Meaning I see you often. We just covered this episode on my podcast, the Friend Forward podcast, but we talked about 5 reasons women feel lonely even though they have friends. The number one reason, hands down, was we don't spend any time together. I have friends, but I never see them. Okay, well, you're going to feel lonely. And so the second component is consistency. And so whatever that looks like to you all, we're not saying every day, but a rhythm. I can expect I'm going to see you, hear your voice, see your face, every Thursday, every other Thursday, I'm checking in. I'm touching, quote unquote, we're touching. And so consistency has to be there. I know a lot of people do that thing of, oh my gosh, I could go like a year without seeing my best friends. And we just like pick up and I'm like, that's really great for you. Okay. And I know some people have that. I think it speaks more to your chemistry, but still there's going to be something different if you're just self-reporting to me what's going on in your life once a year. And then me actually knowing the developments of your life and your hardships and how those are working out for you every day. That's different. So consistency is important. And finally, vulnerability. A lot of us say, I want depth, but simultaneously do not feel comfortable sharing about something we're struggling with, something we've been through. We're not comfortable trying new things in front of other people because we're self-conscious. All that has to do with vulnerability. And it's directly tied to how comfortable and deep you feel with other people. So is that on them or is that on you for how much you're willing to test the capacity of that friendship to be vulnerable? And why not, And so those 3 things have to be present. If you're like, gosh, I know people and I have friends, but they're not deep. Well, which of those 3 things do we need to increase so we can get some of what we're looking for?
That was super, super helpful because I have some people who are here who I've been wondering, why aren't they higher up on the tier of my friendship? And I can't put them there for some reason. And it's because they're missing one or more of those 3 things. And I'm like, oh yeah, because something is off about it and it's just not going to work on that higher level.
Yeah. And you have to have people who are equally invested. I do hear that complaint a lot. Like, gosh, I thought we were cool, but she is never available. She's never, and that's unfortunate. Like I said, some of us don't prioritize it right now, or we tap into friends when we need them. We broke up with the boyfriend or we need somebody to hang out with and we tap back in. So we do sometimes have a misalignment in terms of somebody who's like, no, I'm pretty intentional about my friendships, and other people who are like, yeah, friends are fun. They're cool. But, and so sure, that's the issue there is values. If we don't value friendship itself the same, somebody's going to be a little disappointed. And so, yeah, you have to find somebody with the same values. And then you have to assess yourself. I know you asked, well, how do I assess those people? But am I giving what I'm looking for, which sounds so cheesy, but like, am I somebody some people would want to befriend? Am I positive? Am I consistent? If I said, yeah, let's hang out Thursday, 5 minutes before, am I like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I actually can't? That stuff matters. And I know it's a common thing now to be like, those little memes that are like, how I celebrate when people cancel plans secretly. I'm like, heck yeah, I get it. I've done it before too, but the two just don't go together. So if I'm also opening my mouth to say like, gosh, I just want people I can like rely on, I want to connect, and it's regular for me to cancel plans, the two go together. And so, there's this whole list of like, traits, like 13 traits that make for a good friend. And some of them are what you would imagine: reliability, honesty, things like that. But two that would surprise you are self-confidence. So people who are not sure in themselves, it affects how you can show up for another person. And then the second thing is a willingness to trust, not trustworthiness, but a willingness to trust. If you're that person who's saying things like, I don't know, you just like can't trust some people these days. You can't trust women. Like, I don't know, I feel like I have to be careful. Sometimes when I hear that, I cringe because I'm like, no, you're secretly signaling that you're not ready for friendship, you know? But like, if you think about it, why would I want to befriend a girl who's waiting for me to disappoint her? And then when I do, she's like, see, you can't trust people. It's like, well, no, I'm a human, and I'm sometimes going to let you down. You know, it also impacts how vulnerable you are. If you don't trust me, you're not going to open up. And then it's a cycle because now you don't feel close to me. And so, you know, assess yourself, keep your eyes open to people who are signaling they also prioritize friendship, be intentional, push through conflict. If you need something, say it. So, you know, I answer all these questions all the time and I love these conversations. But if I had to drill them down to like 3 things, it would be that: say what you need, stop running as soon as things get weird. And you have to be intentional about friends the same way you would about your business.
Stop running when things get weird needs to be like my motto.
Oh, I feel like I lean into the weird a little way more than Emily. Not a little bit more, way more. But anyway, I truly, this is, and maybe it's because I'm in business all the time and like I don't often like really think about this, but I need you to know that this was so immensely helpful, gave me so much to think about, and I'm excited for all our listeners because they're going to be like, I didn't even know this is what I needed, but apparently this is what I needed to hear today. But I do want to give them, this has been a very tangible takeaway podcast anyway, but we are going to go into talk strategy to me. And I'd love if you could just, if all of those things started to feel a little bit overwhelming, because we gave you lots of different strategies, if we were to just start with one thing, maybe the assessing the people that are already around you to kind of like put them on the right levels and see where we can go deeper in who with. What are like 2 to 3 action steps you would take in the next week to reawaken that relationship and start there?
I got you. Step number 1, you're going to identify your top 3 to 5 women. And I wish I can give you a list of the qualities they all need to have, but you go with your gut here. Who are women who you're like, dang, she seems interesting. She seems really funny. I really liked my last conversation with her. Whatever your criteria is, who are 3 to 5 women? The reason I say put their names down, those 3 to 5, is because research tells us that our brains have the capacity to handle 5 close relationships. So we can handle 150 social connections in our mind. So if you think about it like a circle, like 150 connections, and then concentric circles getting smaller and smaller inside of that, the smallest circle represents 5. The argument is that your brain can only handle maintaining 5 of those. And get this, if you have a romantic partner, then that person takes up 2 of the 5 spots.
So
and
what happens when you have a business partner that's like basically a partner? Like, does that mean I only have 1 spot left? Oh,
I know. Sometimes women are like, oh my God, I have 3 kids. What does this mean for my life? Before people panic, like, holy crap, I'm friends with my sisters. I have 4 of them. What does this mean? Will I get married? I'm like, okay, hold on, slow down. Research is just a guide. It's just guidelines for us. The real point here is you need about 3-ish people you are close to. You want to brag about having friends, that's cool. But if you also can't be vulnerable with them, what is the point? You need 3 close quality friendships. That is step number 1. Who are the 3 women you'd like to get intentional about getting close with? Step 2 would be, think about that triangle we just talked about. Which of those 3 things, positivity, vulnerability, consistency, can you step up with those 3 women to get what you desire? So if you said, I like Amy, Susie, and Tanya, great. For each one of them, look at that triangle. What do you need to be doing to start experiencing some closeness with them? And then the third step would be to do the outreach and to get consistent. If she says, oh, actually, I can't get together on Saturday, do not fall apart. Snap out of it. Do not fall on the ground and be like, oh my God, this is why I can't do this. Stop it. The key we're really looking for is a woman who collaborates and negotiates with us. So if she says, oh, I can't on Saturday, but what about next Tuesday? That's what I'm looking for. And so do your outreach, be consistent. Don't be so fragile. If a woman's not available, keep pushing through. But those would be your 3 steps. Write their names, figure out where you can improve and increase that triangle, and then do your outreach and be consistent.
Danielle, that was incredibly helpful for us and for all of our listeners, I know. If they wanted to continue the conversation with you or learn more from you, where can they do that online?
Yeah, so our website is betterfemalefriendships.com. It's got all the things. We recently launched a program because it's normal to us to get a business coach, to have a marriage counselor. But why not get support in what I would argue is probably one of the most important relationships you'll ever have, at least according to research, your relationships. And so we started a program that walks you through how to master adult friendships in 60 days, like to learn all the things. And so far it's been really cool. And so all that's at betterfemalefriendships.com. I'm on Instagram under my name, Danielle Byer Jackson. And I look forward to all the DMs I'm sure I'm going to get with essay style questions. And I look forward to that.
I saw this at Target and thought of you.
Yes,
go for it. Like, anyway, it's fine. Thank you so much.
What was the name of your podcast again, too, so they can go subscribe to that?
My podcast is called Friend Forward, and I look forward to seeing everybody over there.
Awesome.
Danielle, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. We hope you got some good ideas on something new you can try in your business.
We wanted to share a free resource with you that we designed to help creators earn a full-time income from their passion.
It's a workshop called Day Job to Dream Job, How to Become a Full-Time Creative Entrepreneur. And you can watch for free right now by heading to bossproject.com/watch. Thanks for listening to the Strategy Hour podcast. For show notes, links, downloads, and other awesome resources, head to thestrategyhour.com.
If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to the both of us if you'd take a minute to leave a review. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe so you can listen next time as we dish out some more awesome strategy.